Is AI a powerful new tool in the developer's kit, or is it, a genuine threat to coding careers? Let's really unpack it.
Okay, so after looking at everything, what's the main takeaway? Tool or threat?
The overwhelming feeling, the consensus from what we've read, is that AI is fundamentally a tool, a really powerful one, sure.
But like any big new tool, it causes disruption.
Precisely. It's brilliant at automating the repetitive stuff, the things that can really slow developers down. Think generating boilerplate code, setting up basic project structures, even drafting documentation.
Hmm.
So it's not just about doing things faster. It's about shifting where developers focus their energy. Less manual typing, more strategic thinking, overseeing, evaluating the output.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So if it's handling that kind of groundwork,
Uh-huh.
what specific coding tasks are maybe most affected?
Yeah.
And conversely, what roles become even more important?
Well, the research highlights things like writing very standard code blocks, repetitive debugging tasks, some basic QA checks, maybe simpler junior-level feature additions. Those seem most susceptible to automation right now.
Okay.
But then you look at the other side. Roles needing deep system understanding, like architecture, complex systems design, they're actually growing. Same for roles focused heavily on user experience or deep performance and security optimization.
And you mentioned new roles emerging too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Things like specialists focus purely on AI tooling and, crucially, prompt engineering. That's becoming a real skill. Learning how to talk to the AI effectively, how to ask the right questions to get code that's not just functional, but also secure and efficient.
Right. Getting the AI to do what you actually want.
Yeah.
So how do these tools like GitHub Copilot or the ChatGPT code interpreter, how do they even work? And what can't they do well?
Fundamentally, they're built on these large language models, LLMs, trained on just vast amounts of code, mostly open source stuff. They spot patterns.
So they're like superpowered pattern matchers, not really thinking.
Exactly. They mimic understanding based on statistical likelihoods they learn from the data. They don't have genuine intent or reasoning, and that's key. They often struggle with complex business logic or the why behind a feature because that context usually isn't in the raw code they trained on.
Makes sense.
And they're not great with truly new problems, things outside their training data. They can also sometimes write code that looks right but is insecure or inefficient. And then there are the hallucinations.
Ah, yes, making things up.
Right, confidently inventing functions or syntax that just don't exist. So, human creativity, judgment, critical thinking, those are still absolutely essential.
Okay, so we are seeing real impact. GitHub saying Copilot writes, what, 46% of code in some languages? And estimates suggest AI could automate maybe 30, even 50% of those repetitive tasks. Some startups are apparently hiring fewer juniors. That sounds pretty significant.
It is significant, definitely. But the broader trend, especially in larger companies, seems to be more about retooling teams, not just shrinking them. Look at Shopify. They integrated AI quite deeply, but they also invested more heavily in senior engineers.
To manage the AI.
Yeah.
And handle the complex stuff.
Exactly. To guide the AI, validate its output, and tackle the problems the AI can't. In fact, there's an argument that AI might actually increase the overall demand for programmers long term.
How so? More code being generated means
Yeah.
more code to manage.
Pretty much. More code needs more maintenance, more integration, more customization, more security reviews, more ethical oversight. It's a bit like, think back to when compilers or sophisticated IDEs first appeared.
Right. People probably thought those would replace programmers.
They did. But they didn't. They just abstracted away lower-level complexities. They let developers build bigger, more complex things faster. AI is kind of the next layer of that abstraction.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. But there are still risks, right? Ethical issues, practical problems.
Well, absolutely. A big one is vulnerability. AI might learn from outdated code or insecure patterns found in its training data and then replicate those flaws. We saw Stack Overflow have issues with AI-generated answers being confidently wrong, leading to temporary bans.
And the liability quotient must be huge.
It's critical and honestly largely unresolved.
Yeah.
If AI writes faulty code that causes damage, who's responsible? The developer who used the tool, the company deploying it, the AI vendor. That's a massive legal and ethical gray area.
So the idea of just letting AI code entire systems without human checks by, say, 2030, that seems unlikely.
Highly unlikely. You'd need perfect code verification, zero hallucinations, total reliability. We are nowhere near that. Human oversight, judgment, and accountability remain absolutely vital.
So bringing it all together for you listening, the message seems clear. AI isn't about coder extinction. It's about a fundamental shift in the role. It's pushing developers towards higher value tasks, the systems thinking, the user empathy, the real innovation.
And maybe that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If AI makes it easier for almost anyone to build simple things, what does that unlock for human creativity? What incredibly complex, currently unimaginable systems will we be able to build next now that humans and AI can collaborate in these new ways? That's where the real future might lie.